hold something for me. Then he kept walking on down the road, and I watched him disappear like smoke. And I thought I'd just seen a ghost. Then I looked down at what he wrote.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hi, once again, my name is Omobola Stephen, and welcome to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. And so on today's show, I want to talk about, unleash guilt and shame. And so on today's show, I have a guest with me who is the guilt and shame educator and counselor. So her name is Lois Hollis. And so a brief introduction about Lois Hollis, who's going to suffice that. And so I want you to understand that if you're tired of affirmations, wellness programs, shamanic practices, positive self-talk, meditation, healing conferences, tapping oils, or massage, switching from one healing trend to the other, frustrated for loss of time and money, shame and guilt are the roots of emotional and physical problems. I need you to know that. Without finding and releasing shame and guilt by you, with your counselor, coach, therapist, healing is incomplete. Healing is incomplete. Absolutely. And so, Lois Hollis, registered nurse BSN, and also Reverend, was a nurse at the age of 12. A desire to understand and heal the body continues at age 77 as a shame guilt educator, counselor, and now filmmaker. Beautiful. Once she discovered shame and guilt was the root cause of emotional and physical illnesses, she was healed. Now that's very brilliant. As a trailblazer, Lois shepherds others out of crisis, achieve success, or attain spiritual growth. Lois Shame Guilt Film Series helps solve today's health issues and regain our happiness of spirit. And so welcome with me on today's show, Live Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, Lois Hollis. Welcome on the show. Thank you. And so can I meet you, please?
Thank you. How I came into this profession was through my own journey. And once I realized that shame and guilt is the core of our emotional struggles, I was immediately drawn to make it a specialty.
Right.
The main problem is that we as a culture, no matter what country you're living in, has the wrong definition for shame and guilt. So therefore, we are always blindsided by its presence. My job is to educate the reason why the definitions have been not shown upon our culture, and how once you know the particular correct definitions, you can easily see how shame and guilt can be released from your life. Shame and guilt are connected. They are not separate. A lot of people say shame is good and shame is bad and guilt is good. But shame works in the unconscious mind and guilt works in the conscious mind. They are twins. One can never get rid of guilt until they remove the shame that's making the guilt present. And that's a big problem in today's world. The guilt is often quite heavy. And no matter how much positivity you have, the guilt always will sneak through.
That's right.
And my definition, what I have come to learn from my spirit writings, is that shame is the cause of guilt. So unless someone recognizes shame and they cannot release the shame or the guilt. So we're in a total spiral. And I have some information on my website, loishollis.com, that explains this particular cultural difference that I am sharing now with the world.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Now I understand perfectly what it means to be living in denials of our new reality. So how does shame and guilt come to play here?
Well, shame and guilt keep us in denial because we don't understand it and we're taught not to express it. We're told it is bad, where it's good. Some people say it's necessary for society to keep us moral, but I would entertain the fact that we can go to a higher consciousness by doing the right thing, not because we feel guilty if we don't do it.
Right.
That's an invitation to go into a higher place of living. Also, shame and guilt are not emotions. They activate our negativity. Shame and guilt are not emotions. So I would like to inform people today, as one thing they can do is to see shame and guilt as a big cloud of smoke that covers them. And when they have serious negativity, depression, anxiety, etc., try to isolate the shame and guilt away from yourself and work on the depression or anxiety. Don't work on shame and guilt, because if you continually think about it, you go down that never descending hole of I'm not good enough, and that will never end. So if you can just see that shame and guilt as a big cloud of black smoke that's covering you and tell it to go away. Okay, it won't go away completely, but this is a turning point that you can use to not go down the
right, man. Thank you so much for that clarification. Now, why did you say that shame and guilt are the root cause of most emotional and physical problems that people are facing in life?
Shame and guilt.
That's
I
right.
call it shame guilt because they are the same. They are not separate.
Oh.
The fact that our culture has separated them makes it very confusing in our healing. We need to see it as one particular big cloud of black smoke that descends upon us. And since it's outside of us, we can actually get rid of it and release it.
That's right. That's right. So can you share your knowledge on shame and guilt? Because I know that you're an experienced counselor on shame and guilt. So can you share your experience with us?
I think we all know about the experience of shame and guilt. I'm wanting to mention that shame is in the unconscious mind and guilt is in the conscious mind. So it has its own entity of energy. Just like love has its own energy, shame, guilt has its own energy.
That's right.
So shame and guilt turns our compassion energy into depression. Shame, guilt changes our intuition into anxiety. Shame, guilt changes our passion into anger. Shame and guilt is the energy that turns our positive emotions into negative emotions. And when we have negativity, as we all know, it disrupts our whole nervous system.
That's right.
And we have different energies coming within our nervous system, which activates our own organs.
That's right.
And therefore, we have the beginning of disease.
Mm. Mm.
Because it's same like with the computer, and you have a virus. If you have a virus in your computer, what happens to your Word programs and other programs? They don't operate correctly, correct?
Yeah.
So look at shame and guilt as a bad energy that attacks us, and our organs, our nervous system just don't operate properly. If they don't operate properly, they start to have disease. So yes, shame and guilt is the beginning problem for our emotional and physical diseases.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Brilliant. Now, I understand that there are also LD guilts. So can you, or do you have any idea on that?
How do you deal with it?
I understand also that there are LD guilts. Can you talk about that? Healthy guilts.
I'm sorry, I don't particularly.
I meant that not all guilts are unhealthy. There are some guilts that are very healthy. So
Okay.
can you share your knowledge on that?
Okay, healthy guilt is an oxymoron. There's no such thing as a healthy poison. All shame and guilt is a very negative, dangerous energy. There's no such thing as healthy guilt. There's no such thing as healthy shame. It's like healthy poison is good for you. It doesn't exist. All shame and guilt is negative, dangerous energy. Guilt does not make you a better person.
Okay.
I'm asking people to elevate them status by doing the right thing, because I want to do this to help my friend. I don't want to use guilt as if I don't do it, I'll feel guilty. You see the difference? It's a big job to change our culture around.
That's right.
But there's no such thing as healthy shame or healthy guilt. How can it be healthy if it destroys our being? But our culture has told us this, so it's not our fault. It's not our fault.
That's right. That's a good one.
And another thing that people have to understand is the fact that we have depression and anxiety. We can't blame our mothers. We can't blame our fathers. We can't blame ourselves. We have to blame shame and guilt. Shame, guilt is our.
That's right. Thank you so much for the understanding. Now, don't you think that our childhood upbringing and conditioning needs to be worked upon in order for us to live free and unashamed?
Of course. How do you think we became this way? It's in our culture, it's in our government, it's in our schools, it's in all relationships. It's endemic. It's the real pandemic. I call it the shame guilt pandemic. But this is a new concept, and it's opening the doors to finally healing, because there are many healing modalities, as you well know. All the different personality therapies, all the psychology therapies, essential oils, holistic thinking, writing, and talking to yourself. And they're all remedies that are useful. But unless the therapist or you take the time to extricate and recognize the shame, guilt in your life, the therapies will never be 100% complete.
Correct.
So
thank you so much for that.
That's really the reason why we jump from one therapy to the next. Oh, this is the latest tool. This is the latest tool. Well, they may be, but unless the therapist or you use shame and guilt understanding, the therapy cannot be complete. And that's a pretty big statement.
Great. So what's your understanding of self-acceptance, and how important is it?
Is what? Self-acceptance?
Yes, how important is it?
Okay, we all are loving. We all live in happiness. We all have joy. We all have acceptance of self. We are born that way. We have that in our humanity. The only way to get more happiness, more joy, more understanding of ourselves, more self-acceptance is not to try to get those qualities, but remove the curtain of shame, guilt that's covering it. We cannot make happiness. We cannot make joy. We can only take away the obstacle that's covering it. It's a whole different way of looking at our emotional structure. We need to take away shame and guilt rather than spending time on how to get more happy. It's a whole different new approach. And that's why we're always in conflict and we feel not good enough because we can't do it. Well, unless you remove the shame and guilt, it makes us more shameful because we're operating in the different end of it. We're operating and trying to get more joyful, more happy, instead of trying to release the shame, guilt that's covering it.
Absolutely.
Think of a blanket covering you. And I can't stand up. I can't stand up. Well, you can't stand up because you've got a big, heavy blanket covering you. Once you take off the blanket, then you can stand up straight.
That's right. Thank you so much. It's been live well lived by Omobola Stephen. And so on today's show, I'm having a guest that is discussing about guilt and shame, which is most times the root cause of all the emotional and physical troubles that we go through in life. And so she is Lois Hollis now. Lois Hollis was a nurse aide at 12, a desire to understand and heal the body, continues even at age 77 as a shame, guilt educator, counselor, and now filmmaker. Once she discovered that shame and guilt was the root cause of all the emotional and physical illnesses, she was healed. Absolutely. Now, as a trailblazer, Lois shepherds others out of crisis, achieves success, or attain spiritual growth. Lois Shame Guilt Film series helps solve today's health issues and regain our happiness, our spirits. Thank you so much, Lois, for being on the show today. And so I want to ask this question: how can a person alter their faulty belief systems in order to have a healthy life and relationships?
Visit my website, Lois, Lois, Hollis, HOLLIS.com. I have several teaching articles in there that can lead you further into this modality of healing. And I have YouTube channels available also. And that's the first step. The first step is to realize it's dangerous. It's no good. It's not part of us. It's not part of humanity. That's step number one. And then you can visit my website and you could go from there. And I have free ebooks on there as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So do you have anything you're working on presently? Do you have any project?
We are beautiful human beings that just got covered with shame and guilt.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do you have any parting words? And the last word?
That's it. I'll just realize it's not part of you, and it's never good. It's dangerous. It's not part of humanity.
Thank you so much. Such wise words. Thank you so much once again. It's been lovely by Omobola Stephen, and so some other time, I hope we can do this again.
Oh, this is just the beginning. We have many more hours to go.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Lois Hollis. Thank you for coming around on the show. And so it's been lovely by Omobola Stephen. So till I come here with some other time, I need you to stay safe always and live life, live fully. It's bye for now.